Welcome to the Sharpe Way Show. Yes, it is 7 p.m. on the East Coast. My mug, that's how it works. Some of you saw me earlier today, and you're back. Thank you so much. Some of you couldn't handle me earlier today. No worries. I'm glad you're here now. As always, it is Tuesday. You know what I always ask you to do? Like, comment, share. I have to keep bugging you because it's the only way that people are going to notice. Those algorithms are going to get past the blockade that we have to make people pay attention to us. It does matter. My sponsor, theadvocates.org, have a new survey out. Yes, the Election Integrity Survey. So if you're interested in that, you can actually check the show description. The link is right there. Take that test, share it with others. Makes my sponsors happy. I love that. And of course, grownselection.com. If you are someone who enjoys CBD products, please head over there. grownselection.com, put in Sharpe Way 20 and you'll get 20% off. Not too shabby, right? Sharpe Way special last weekend today. The piece I want to bring up is what I talked about, or what I put in the beginning of the show, which is what's going to happen to the GOP after this week, right? I mean, I'm assuming within a week or two, they're going to be done with, screaming about Trump. I'm assuming that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. This week, next week, whenever it's over, whenever they're done screaming about him. When that happens, they're either going to convict him or not. Everyone thinks the odds are it's not going to happen, but it'll be over, whatever it is. What happens to the party then? Does the party all of a sudden, start to go, you know what? Now it's done. Now we can begin to forget about him. Does the party start instead thinking differently, that maybe we need to embrace him more? What happens? What does he do, right? Once it's over, he has to figure out what he's going to do, right? If assuming he doesn't get removed, then he's going to be able to run again. So does that mean Trump 2024? Is that what that means? What I want to bring up is what happened this weekend. And this is an MSNBC piece, which, as you know, I rarely put up MSNBC pieces. This is a clip from the Chris Hayes show, but a different gentleman is on. I think his name is Mehdi Hassan is on. And Manny brings up some very good points that I think people would actually enjoy. Even if you're not an MSNBC fan, I think you'll enjoy some of the points he brings up. They're valid. I'm going to go through a couple of them now. And you tell me, am I off with my thoughts?
Good evening from Washington, D.C. I'm Mehdi Hassan in for Chris Hayes. This is the state of the Republican Party in the year 2021. Mm-hmm. The former president, having lost and then inspired an insurrection, is...
But this is the part that always bothers me about the start here, right? It's not like anyone watching MSNBC doesn't know what happened, right? It's not like they're like, what? What? The president's gone? No one thinks that, right? Everyone does know that, but they've always got to start with the punch. And I get why they do it. It's kind of a virtue signaling to their base, right? That says, hey, see, we still hate Trump, so listen to us. And it's sad that I have to say that. Why wouldn't they just say, here's what's happening. You all know. Let me give you my view of what's happening. There's always a start with that. And again, the right does it too. Don't get me wrong. The right does it too. But this is where we are, where I have to virtue signal first so you can know whether you want to believe me or not.
Facing his second impeachment trial next week.
Yes.
And his successor, President Joe Biden, is telling CBS News tonight that his predecessor cannot be trusted with the nation's top secret intelligence.
Well, let me ask you then something that you do have oversight of
this
as
is a
president.
concern with me.
Should former President Trump still receive intelligence briefings?
Mm-hmm.
I think not.
Now, he has a right. I want to be forward. He has a right to say no. The intelligence briefings are a courtesy given from the current president to the past president. He can say no. Doesn't mean he should say no, but it's not illegal or unconstitutional or against the law or something for Biden to go, sorry, no, thank you. He can do that if he wants to. The issue is, if you're going to say, I think not, then just stop it. Right? If you honestly believe that, right? And this is, again, the problem I have with the idea of the signaling, right? I've got to signal that Trump is evil. Okay, if he's evil, if Biden actually believes that, then stop the briefs, right? I mean, if he does, if he's really in his head going, my God, this guy's, we're all going to die if I give him stuff. Okay, if you believe that, why wouldn't you stop it already? End it. But if not, then wouldn't you instead just not want to virtue signal? Just go, you know what? He's not that bad. Take it. Or whatever is your view.
Why not?
Because of his erratic behavior unrelated to the insurrection.
I mean, you've called him an existential threat.
He has.
You've called him dangerous. You've called him reckless.
Yeah, I have, and I believe it.
What's your word?
I actually respect that. He didn't back off. He said, no, I think the guy's horrible and terrible, and I believe it. Okay. Okay. If that's true, if you actually believe it, if you actually do, why would you give him the briefings?
Worst fear if he continues to get these intelligence briefings?
I'd rather not speculate out loud. I just think that there is no need for him to have that intelligence briefing. What value is giving him an intelligence briefing? What impact does he have at all, other than the fact he might slip and say something?
It would normally be crazy to say that a former president can't be trusted with the nation's secrets. But
it wouldn't be crazy. And most people are asking, and I saw someone already asked, why would you do that? Why would you even bother doing that? Well, because it's very common, or has been in the past, very common for current presidents to use former presidents to do basically things like diplomacy or help with deals and such, right? If you look back in the past, sub-Saharan Africa loves George W. Bush. They think he's one of the greatest guys in the world. And for what he did for them, with the way he helped out with AIDS and supported the little Africa push, it's true. They love him. So if I'm Obama, I send George W. Bush to sub-Saharan Africa because they love him to try to close a deal or make something work. And that's a common practice, right? They used to send Carter out because Carter was lovable in the world. So they would send a former president out to do some of the bidding to help close a deal or to help make something nice, or diplomatic mission, or to somebody's funeral that they can't make. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So they would give them the security briefs so that the presidents would know, hey, if you're heading into Zimbabwe, watch out, right? Or whatever the case may be, or maybe you don't want to go. So that made sense. That's the reason for doing it. Now, are you going to use Trump again? Well, they're killing each other, so I'm not sure that's true. But I don't know. I might put Trump back into North Korea again if he gave me a shot. I might say, hey, you had a good shot. See if you can open up again. I might.
these are not normal times. And in this case, the former president just incited an insurrection.
Had to say it twice. Got it. Had to say it twice.
Against his own country. And while Trump stews and plots against his enemies, the next generation of Republican leadership is making clear that they remain his loyal foot soldiers.
And this is a piece that's important for everyone to understand, right? Is the Republican Party prepared to walk away? And who's the heir apparent? I mean, that's another issue. What happens if Trump decides, you know what? And look, I don't know Trump at all, so I have no insight whatsoever. But what happens if Trump decides, you know what, I'm done politics. I'm going to go build some hotels in Malaysia. Whatever. He decides, I'm done. I'm packing up. I'm going to go build hotels in Malaysia. Again, I have no information, making this up. What if it happens? Does the Republican Party just longingly look for Malaysia and hope their savior returns? I hope not, for their sake. If you're a Republican, I hope you're not thinking that. I'm hoping you're thinking, what is the next step, whether Trump is still around or not? And the points he's bringing, even though he's clearly anti-Republican, clearly, but the point he is starting to bring up are real points.
I've always supported him. I want to tell you, Republican voters support him still.
Yes.
The party is his. It doesn't belong to anybody else.
There has been this talk about a civil war within the Republican Party with Trump and people
Absolutely.
like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt.
I brought it up myself, the idea of a civil war. I get it. But I think Greene is right. I mean, I still know lots of Republicans here in New York City who still think Trump is great. So it's not like he lost and all of a sudden everybody left. Did some people leave? Without question, right? There are some people who are like, well, he's a winner, so I love him. Oh, he's not a winner, so I don't love him anymore. Of course, there were some fair, weather fans. Absolutely. There's a lot of Republicans, though, who still support him. And Greene's one of them.
Gates and Ted Cruz on one side, and on the other side, people like Liz Cheney and Senator Ben Sasse, who stand for the more traditional GOP. But talk of such a war implies that there are two more or less equal sides.
But I'm not sure there are two equal sides in this case. I think there may even be three sides, or maybe even four. I'm not sure the Republican Party right now. I think it's still, and I've said this before, I think right now the Republican Party is kind of reshaping itself and figuring out what it is right now. I don't think it's going to shape itself out for what it actually is going to be for at least 2 months. My gut, maybe 3, before they kind of figure out, okay, this is where we are. This is what we stand for. I don't see it until at least that.
This isn't that kind of war. It's more of a rout. The Trumpists won. A poll out yesterday found that Green has a net favorability among Republicans of +10. Republicans generally like her. Liz Cheney's net favorability is -28. She's basically a pariah within her own party.
But here's the problem with this, right? If you're a Republican running for office, you got some problems here, and you might face actually an AOC problem. And what I mean by that, if you're in the Green camp, the Trump side of the party, the problem you're going to have is fundraising. The average everyday fundraiser, right, as a general rule, if Trump gets back in the game, a lot of that money is going to go to Trump and not to the people on the ground. A lot of it isn't. And they rely on people like Cheney, big donors, old school Republicans, lots of money, all that stuff to start raising cash. So now if you're a Republican, you're in trouble. Do you jump on the Liz Cheney side so you can get the big cash, but stay on the Green side so you can get the votes? Or do you just get a bunch of money from Cheney and try to buy the votes? Not good to be a Republican right now. Which side do you jump on? Which is why you see them jumping on both sides. They don't want to get rid of the old school big money Republicans. They don't want to do that because they need the cash. But they don't want to get rid of the populist Republicans because that's where the votes are. And if all of a sudden the party splits up, big problems.
Cheney is an avatar in some ways of the pre-Trump Republican Party,
yes,
which most of the GOP base no longer wants anything to do with.
And that's the point. The base doesn't want her, but the establishment does. She is an establishment Republican, right? And I think many of the established Republicans hoped, oh, okay, now Trump loses, good. Whoo! Let's just kick him to the curb, and then we'll go back to the way things used to be. And that's not happening. And I think some of them were hoping for that. It's not happening.
64% of GOP voters said in another new poll that if Trump were to start a new political party, they'd likely join it. That
would be a big problem. I don't think Trump is going to start a new party. That's my opinion. I don't think he's going to. Again, I have no insight. This is just my opinion. Take it for whatever you want to take it for. I can't see him starting another party. It is really hard to start another party. Bloomberg has billions upon billions of dollars, and he didn't want to do it. It is really hard to do so. I don't think he will. If he does, though, and this is my prediction, if he does, GOP's finished. There's no way it can survive that massive crack of Trump walking away from the GOP. It won't win an election even locally at that. I mean, maybe some local elections, maybe like Utah. That's about it. I mean, because that big chunk will just break everything up. It would be a disaster for them. The question would be, will the Democrats be as bad as they are? And they are terrible to where they would actually be able to pick anything up. The Republicans right now are broken, right? People don't know where they stand. They're broken. The Democrats are just being so vindictive that people don't want to go to them either. So now what are people doing? Leaving, or you can always come to my tribe. I'm happy to have you.
It's one of the oldest political parties in the Western democratic world.
Yes.
The party of Lincoln, of Eisenhower. But most GOP voters don't have any use for it anymore. They're not tied to the Republican Party.
I hear that constantly. I hear so many Republicans say, I don't care about the Republican Party. It's dead to me. I must have seen that in print, in my social media feed, I don't know, 24 times since the election, more, 36 times. I mean, so many times I keep seeing that. I keep seeing that.
They are tied to Donald Trump and to the politics of defiance and grievance that he represents.
Yes.
There is no governing philosophy any longer, no feints towards small government or supply side economics.
That's true. I mean, the idea of the Republican Party actually being a very conservative party, meaning things like, as he said, the idea of being focused on those old school ideas, not so much anymore. They're really more concerned about fear. And Democrats too, right? While Democrats are definitely pushing, much more of a socialist America, that's for sure. Their biggest issue is we're scared of the populists. We don't want, the radical right to do anything. We want to keep them down and keep them away and make them afraid. That's a big part of what the Democrats are doing. And Republicans do the same thing. They're afraid of the Democrats. They think, oh my God, there's no way that that socialism is going to destroy us. So they're just against cancel culture. They are against. And the issue is when you have parties that aren't for much, but are really just against something, man, they're going to struggle. And I tell you now, with Trump going away, you're seeing that the Democrats are actually more for something than they are against something, if that makes any sense. The Republicans now are far more against something than they are for something. And I think that's a weak spot for Republicans. They've got to fix that if they want to keep going. Or the Democrats are really going to take advantage of this. And for the first time, if the Republicans don't make changes, then the Democrats may actually have victories in 2022. That is not common.
Any of that. It's just own the libs and fight cancel culture.
Yes.
It's why people like Marjorie Taylor Greene don't actually care if they get kicked off congressional committees.
Yes. Just like I was saying, the people are so upset right now. Well, if you're a Trump supporter, you go, oh my God, Trump might get removed and it hurts Trump. Trump doesn't care about this. He'll be fine. He doesn't care. If Trump gets removed, he won't care. I mean, he'll be fine either way. He'll go build some hotels in Malaysia. He'll be fine. He's not going to be starving if all of a sudden he gets removed, or if he doesn't get removed. I'm far more worried about the individual Americans that will be left in the Republican Party. What's going to happen to them? Are they going to have a home? Are they going to check out? I hope they'll come to the Libertarians, but they may not. They may just check out or start something else. I'm far more concerned about that than I am whether or not Trump gets, removed or not. And also Greene, she doesn't care. She'll be fine either way. She's like, whatever.
Which is where the work of government is supposed to take place. And if there's anything we learned from 4 years of Trump, it's that this simply is not a governance project of any kind.
It's not. It's a culture war. It is a culture war, without question. This is not about governing. This is about a culture war. And the sad part about the culture war is, as we fight this cultural war, other stuff isn't getting done. Just isn't getting done at all. So the country is collapsing while we fight a theoretical culture war, which we could just leave people alone and not worry about it.
I'm fine with being kicked off of my committees because it'd be a waste of my time. So now I have a lot of free time on my hands, which means I can talk to a whole lot more people.
Boy, that sure went well. Oh my God. She's like, good, I got time. I'm getting paid. You guys are paying me. Thank you for the paycheck. I can hang out and talk more trash. Thanks. That's literally what she just said. This didn't work. Whatever they were trying, it didn't work. I know it's because we got to have standards or whatever the thing is. And I do get that. But man, we have to start being concerned about not just how our actions look. We have to start being concerned with what our actions do. What are the results of our actions? Not just how does it look?
And that's all she wants to do.
Yeah,
like
he's right.
Trump before her, she's a professional troll who happens to have been elected to a job in government that she doesn't particularly want to do.
I just wish he wouldn't do the insults so much. I mean, I get it. He's a lefty. He wants to insult the righties. I get it. Just you could say the cool stuff without the calling her a troll. You could. I did. I just said she wants to hang out with more people. I didn't name call though. The only person I name call is Cuomo. That's it. Otherwise, I don't name call.
And let's talk about the other side in this so-called Republican civil war. It's true that Liz Cheney survived a vote to remove her from leadership after she voted to impeach Trump. But it was a secret ballot. Republicans know the base doesn't like her.
And there's the point I'll bring up again. This is a tough spot for a Republican. If you're running, if anybody watching, if you're watching, considering running as a Republican, you got to toe a line here. Behind closed doors, the Republicans don't want Liz Cheney to go away. Because if she goes away, that big dollar, those big dollars go away. And some of that happened with the Lincoln Project. And they saw it happen. They saw a lot of that money that used to go in Republican pockets go into Democrat pockets. And they didn't like it, particularly when it comes to Georgia. They saw all that cash, a lot of that would have gone to Republicans, that went to Democrats. And they don't want that. At the same time, the actual individual person, they know if I just jump on the Cheney train, I might get primaried and get removed. I might lose my election. So they really have to kind of do that, right? Because if you look at the votes that are secret, they support Cheney because they want the cash. If you look at the votes that are public, they're against Cheney. Why? Because they're afraid of losing their power.
They made sure no one knew who voted for her. That's not exactly a vote of confidence. And the very next day, Cheney herself...
You are wrong. It is exactly a vote of confidence. You are wrong, my friend. It is a vote of confidence. They're saying they want her influence and her power and her money. Because Green can't do that. Green raises cash because she's attached to Trump. If Trump, again, goes off to Malaysia and starts building hotels, Green's in trouble. Cheney's got cash in her back pocket, so she can always get that cash out there if she needs to.
Voted against kicking Green off her committees in a vote that was not secret. She knows which way the wind is blowing. In the end, only 11 House Republicans voted to kick Green off her committees, and only 10 of them voted to impeach Trump for inciting a violent insurrection. Roughly 95% of the GOP House caucus sided with Trump and Green.
Absolutely. 90%. 95%. A lot.
That's who the party belongs to.
Yes.
And that's true at the state level, especially in Arizona, where Republicans just lost the presidential race for the first time.
This part drives me crazy. Republicans, what are you thinking? This part here is insanely stupid. I don't know why Republicans are doing this. It's a terrible idea, but they're doing this. Watch Republicans making dumb, horrible mistakes here.
Since 1996, the state GOP responded by censuring Cindy McCain.
Why?
Widow of John, and other top Republicans at odds with Trump. In Illinois, GOP Congressman Adam Kinzinger was...
This is the part that, you know what? If Republicans are going to say that we should just let it go with Trump, which I happen to agree with, to be forward. I don't think I don't think it actually matters at all. My personal opinion, I agree with Republicans on this one, that they should just let it go. It doesn't make any sense to me at all to do the Trump thing. I happen to agree with Republicans on this one. But then they're going to censure people? They're going to do the same thing? No, Republicans, you got to be, you can't be hypocrites. Either it's okay to hammer Trump and then okay to hammer your own guys, or not okay to hammer Trump and not okay to hammer your own guys. What's this censure going to do? They did what they thought was right. They didn't like Trump, whatever. What you're doing now is just going, this is now Republicans virtue signaling to Trump. See, we're still loyal, Trump. We'll yell at these people. No, terrible idea. The Republicans should have said nothing about this. Now you're gonna censor that McCain's widow? Man, that looks mean. Man, that looks mean. Terrible idea, Republicans. I don't know what you were thinking.
Censured by Republicans in his county for voting to impeach Trump. And in Nebraska, GOP Senator Ben Sasse is also facing a possible censure from his state party central committee, which prompted this response from Sasse.
I don't get these guys.
The anger has always been simply about me not bending the knee to one guy. I still believe, as you used to, that politics isn't about the weird worship of one dude.
Let's talk about Ben Sasse for a moment.
Yeah, and now Democrats going to become jerks. Now watch him become a jerk now. Ben Sasse is just trying to say, you know what? I'm still Republican. I'm not going to bend the knee to Trump. You don't got to hammer me. Can we move on? And they're like, nope, we're going to hammer him. Now, of course, you would think if we really were about unity, we're not. But if we really were about unity right now, this guy right now, this pundit, I'll call him that pundit, would go, well done, Ben Sasse, nicely done, and then move on. No, because as I just said how bad Republicans were, now I'm going to tell you how bad Democrats are. Yeah, I'm going to hit them both. I always do. The Republicans are being completely hypocritical, terrible in their censoring their people at the local level. If you think it's not good for Trump, it's not good for your people, let it all go. But he doesn't go, great, well then, Ben Sasse. What he does is go, not good enough. Not good enough.
Because he is a reflection and embodiment of so much of what's wrong with his party. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the acquittal of Donald J. Trump in his first Senate impeachment trial. Right. You remember that? And you know who voted to acquit? With the exception of Mitt Romney, every single Republican senator, including one Ben Sasse.
So now Ben Sasse, instead of going, okay, Ben Sasse is now at least on board or thinking, or he's with us now, right? If he's a Democrat, great. Instead of doing that, instead, he attacks him. I thought we're talking unity, Democrats. What happened? I thought this is a unity thing, I thought. If it's unity, let it go. So now Ben Sasse gets beat up by his Republicans, and now he's like, guys, what are you doing? And what do? You beat him up too. Ben Sasse, libertarians are here. I promise I won't beat you up. But everybody else just wants to beat him up. It's why? Makes no sense.
The Nebraska senator wants credit for having sometimes been critical of Trump, but he went suspiciously silent, even quitting Twitter ahead of his own re-election in a successful pursuit of a complete and total endorsement from the president.
So in an attempt to do the right thing, he just shuts up because he didn't spend his time attacking Trump all day long. Boy, do I know that feeling that all of a sudden now he's evil because a Republican didn't spend his entire year attacking Trump the entire time. Now he's not good enough, even though now he's saying, guys, we shouldn't support one guy. No, this is the problem that now the Democrats have come into. And it's a big problem that we have in general. I'm going to grab some if I can, some comments. But the piece I want to bring up here, though, is another part afterwards I'm going to bring up, which is about the idea from Michael Smirkanis this weekend about us having to learn and change our ideas. No, we're supposed to just do exactly the same thing all the time. Let me grab a couple of comments if I can. All right. Always liking, commenting, sharing. Can't wait to do the survey. Thank you so much, Shelley. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. So, Jimmy, thank you. Taking a survey. I appreciate that. Absolutely. What will the Dems do once they don't have Trump as a foil? They haven't done anything in 4 years but fight anything Trump related. I think that's a very good question, Matt. I do. They have just been a party really of just we're against Trump. Now Democrats have to figure out how far down the socialist road do they want to go? A little bit, which would be a more common or old school Biden approach, or a more aggressive, which would be a much more of an AOC/Bernie approach. Where are they going to go there? And it depends on how far will the Republicans, go to kind of rebuild themselves. If Republicans actually fall apart, which is a real fear, Democrats will pick up seats. If they pick up seats, they'll do whatever they want. Who'll stop them? Nobody. So, yeah. Trump strike L's me, I think tells me that his ego is all important and will run as an R or independent. I don't see Trump running as independent. He knows how hard that is, John. If Trump runs, that's why I don't think he's going to start his own party. I think Trump stays Republican. I don't think they're going to remove him. You never know. I mean, crazy stuff happens, but I'm not betting that they're going to remove him. I think he's going to just be acquitted. That's what I think. And I think after that happens, Trump will decide if he wants to run again. And if he wants to, he'll stay in the Republican Party. Most Republican, the base, still like him and support him. So I think he'll just stay in the party. And I think he'll try to run again. That's what I think will happen. And then the question is, how much will the Democrats alienate the American white male in the next 4 years? And that sounds horrible, but I'm just being forward. How bad will they do it? Will they completely alienate the American white male? If they do that, Trump has a shot of winning. If they don't do that, Trump probably can't win again because the demographics is changing so much. But if they just totally alienate the white male in America, then he might win again. Depends on how bad the Democrats are. And right now, they are going out of their way to do that. They're trying their best to alienate everyone they possibly can. And they're doing a good job. I mean, we'll see, though. Yes. So they're alienating white men so much that white women and black men are starting to feel it because of the rebound. So it's that bad. So, yes. So, all right. If he's impeached, I think the Patriot Party's done. You mean if he's removed? Yes. If Trump is convicted, that's true. The Patriot Party, I think, is finished. I just don't think that's going to happen. The only way I see it happening, there's only, I think, one sliver of possibility. And that possibility is like a lottery ticket, I think. But it's possible. And that would be if Trump is like telling people he's going to start a Patriot Party, and then people are talking about it, and then the Republican Party believe it's actually going to happen and work, and get scared and think it may break their party up. That's the only way. And I'm stretching, Jimmy. I don't think that's going to happen. But if that were to happen, then they would remove him, I think. But besides that, I don't think so. Yeah. MSNBC, my ears are going to bleed. As I always say, guys, when I show you these things, I know it isn't always the place you might usually watch, but I watch these because I want the information, I want the background, I want the thought process behind it. And that's what I'm trying to do. So, yes. Oh, I can feel the earth healing. Thank you, Paul. That's amazing. Yes. So don't let a tragedy go to waste. I completely agree. Absolutely. Yes. Where I am in Florida, Trump flags still fly a lot. They do in New York, too, just not as much. I mean, New York is clearly mostly Democrat, but you do find some Trump strongholds. They do exist here. Absolutely. So, all right. Why are we talking about Trump like an ex-girlfriend? He's gone. There's no going back. There's a part of me that agrees with you, Sean, but a part of me that doesn't. The reason why I'm a little concerned is right now there's still no heir apparent. Like, who's supposed to pick up that mantle? Who picks up the banner when the bannerman falls down, right? Who picks up the banner? And right now, I don't see anybody. I don't see anyone who can do it right now. If someone pops up, I think you may be right? If some charismatic Republican leader picks up and goes, I got it, I got the banner, follow me, populists, right? If someone can do that, then maybe. I just don't see it. And of course, it really depends on if Trump wants it or not. Does Trump want to go through it or not? If he wants to go through it, I think he wins the nomination again. If he wants to go through it. I mean, he'll be what, 78 then? Is that right? I think 78. I mean, a lot of people at 78 are like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to go do other stuff. So I don't know where his head is. So there we go. All right. That inspired an insurrection. This is a debatable statement that the news reports as fact that I'm saying. Shelley, this is what I mean by the idea of virtual signaling. He has to say that so that the left will go, okay, you've said the appropriate phrases. Now I can listen to you. And now what you're saying is clearly true. And I'm saying he could have done the entire thing without saying that. And he didn't have to. Yes. So Andrew says they've already started. Break our legs and give us a wheelchair. Yep. Take our fishing pole and give us a fish. Yes. That's happening right now. Yes. Kill our jobs and give us welfare. Yes. Make people depend on the government, then betray them. Andrew, yes. 100%. Absolutely. 100%. Yes. So why the former president's given security briefings? Anyhow, it is a courtesy, Andrew, right? Because once you are the president, you get all the briefings and you have a security clearance. And some of you may or may not know this. Once you get a security clearance, you don't just lose it, right? It has to be somehow revoked or something like that. You still retain it, right? I think I had a top secret when I was in the Marine Corps. I think I had a top secret when I was in the Marine Corps. I think I still have it. I think officially. But I have absolutely no use for it, need for it. And there are other clearances also above that. So, but you do keep it. So they still have it. And in theory, they can get it. It is a courtesy that the president gives, as I mentioned, because it has been common practice in the past for current presidents to use former presidents on things like diplomatic missions, places to go, for someone's funeral or birth. or birthday or wedding, something like that, ceremonial stuff, or even to help trade deals close, things like that. The one I just brought recently was George W. Bush. Sub-Saharan Africa loves George W. Bush. So very common for Obama to go, why don't you go there, go talk to those people. They love you. Go over there. And they would do that. So the odds of Biden using Trump, pretty slim. But look, if I was Biden, I would use Trump. I'm not joking. I would use him. I would use him because that's unity. That would give his people some, all right, look, I'm not dismissing Trump so much. I would use him. I might send him back to Korea again. Him and Kim Jong-un got along. Send him back with a better plan. Try it again. Or the craziest thing, and you might think I'm nuts, but I'm serious. Send Trump to open up Iran. This is Nixon going to China in the 70s. Send Trump to open up Iran for business. Yes. And so he can put a Trump hotel in Tehran or something. And I know it sounds funny, but I really mean it. That's what unity is about. Using the people you have, send the guy to Iran. The guy knows one thing Trump knows, no matter what, whether you love him or hate him, the guy knows how to, close deals in foreign countries. He does that all the time, right? There's like Trump, something like every country. So have him put one in Tehran, open up the country. Not a bad idea. That's why they're supposed to get security briefings so they can be used in other missions for the current president. And I would do that. I wasn't joking when I just said that. I would literally do that if I were president. I would have sent Trump to open up Iran. Trump, come on, you want to be a hero? Give you all the briefings we need. Let's do this. Take the State Department, all the people you need. Go open this up. Let's start some trading. You can lead the charge. He gets a win. We open up Iran. Life is good. Life is good. Absolutely. And I get this, shake hands, the unity and stuff, nothing but good. That's what we're talking about. Yes. So the thing is, will your party pick him up? Pick him up, meaning pick up Trump? I don't think so. I don't think our party pick up Trump. I don't think so. I think Trump's going to stay Republican, right? Will Trump even want to be libertarian? No. Will some of his people come to us? Yeah. I mean, Norm mentioned 70 million voters. Out of the 70 million voters, there's a percentage of those voters who were fair weather fans, right? Who were just, I think he's going to win. So I don't know, is that 10 million voters? Is that 20 million? I don't know what that number is, but there's a bunch of those voters who were just like, I hate the left, so I'll vote for Trump, or I think he's going to win. I'm going to be on the winner's side. I'm a fair weather fan. There's a bunch of those. Those might come to us. Any of those, they might come to us. But I think most of Trump's base, which is at least 40 million voters, that's probably more, but I'm just making that up. It's at least 40 million voters. They're staying. I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't think they are. So, all right. Let's see if I can keep going here. I wonder if the prime ministers of the UK gave security briefings to their predecessors. I actually don't know. It's a good question. I don't think they use them in the same way. I don't think they do. But, I mean, remember something. The Brits have a separate head of state versus a head of government. So they can use things like the royal family, which is their head of state. They can use the royal family for those same diplomatic missions. We don't have a royal family, so we can't use them for that. And that's why we have to use our elder statesmen to fill that role. But the Brits have it. They can send the queen or the prince or the whatever, the duke of this or the whatever, the princess of that. They can send those people to the funerals and the ceremony pieces and to help open and close things. And they do. So they don't have a need for it because they have another group of people who fills that bill. So yes. So let's see if I can do this. All right. It was Reagan's party for decades, and now it's Trump. I think it's a point. It is. Yes, I think it's true. Yes. I said it before. If Trump splits the GOP, they won't win an election for a generation. You may have, not a nationwide, right? Not a national election. I think you're right. But they'll win locally here or there. Here or there. There are some areas that are still just going to be enough that they'll get together. Absolutely. So, spot on. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. I'm doing something right. I got Andrew saying yes. Yes. Trump is the only person other than Bernie Sanders who could start their own party and destroy the party that they left on their way out. Even it's more true for Trump than it's for Bernie. Vincent, valid point. I think you're right. I think Bernie could too. You're right. If Bernie decided to, join the Democratic Socialists of America and make them a party, right now the DSA is basically a wing of the Democratic Party. But if they actually packed up and left and said, we're our own party and Bernie's leading it, you're right. that would really hurt Democrats. But if they did that and Trump left, now we got a 4-party system plus us, a 5-party system. Not a bad deal, Vincent. I wouldn't mind 5 parties. You'd have an actual coalition government. Might not be a bad thing. But I think if Trump leaves, Bernie won't leave, because Bernie will be like, whoa, Trump left? Quiet. Democrats, let's take this place over. I think that's what he would do. Because Bernie's many things, right? But he's also pretty savvy. So, yeah, I think he could do it. So, the traditional Republican that loses with grace. I can only hope the RNC exodus doesn't lead them to our party only to draw ire, then target and destroy us. Not that we aren't already targeted, not for choosing a side. Yeah, I'm not that concerned about that, Bill. I know people are. The issue with our party, which makes it both good and bad, but I think overall good, is that it's really hard for us as the Libertarian Party. It's difficult. Not impossible, a lot more difficult for us to be a cult of personality. Again, not impossible, but much more difficult. We really are much more of a party of principle than the other 2 parties. It's one of the reasons why, you can't just go, well, Gary Johnson ran twice, so it's his party. That really didn't happen, even though Gary Johnson got us the most votes we ever got most votes ever. It was never really his party. It's kind of not what we did. Did some people on the outside who didn't know us think that? I think yes. Some people believe that to be true. They were wrong. The party was never Gary Johnson's party. It was, I don't think it was anybody's party at any point. I mean, people had a lot of influence in it, but that's just kind of not what happened. Maybe it's because we haven't won. I mean, that could be the reason, right? Maybe we have to actually win to make that happen. Maybe. But I don't think it's happened so far. So I'm not that concerned. I think they'll come. Many Republicans will come, particularly with Biden being president. Now we will get a lot of Republicans. The party will begin to lean further right. I think that's inevitable for the next 2 years at least, depending on what happens in the next couple of years. And they'll have a bunch of people try to make this a Republican light party. It's not going to work because we have principles. And many will leave and go back to Republicans as soon as they see a winner, whether that's Trump coming back in 2024 or someone else picks up the mantle. They'll head back to the Republican Party. But a bunch will stay. And I can't wait for those people to stay. I want them. That's who I want. I want them to stay. So the collectivism is strong with him. It is. Absolutely. AOC is always a problem. Yeah, but she's my congressperson, Shelley. So I kind of got you beat on that one. Absolutely. Seems like those who try to undo by fear and force a dual elected government shouldn't be receiving security briefings from the very government they tried to undo by force and fear. Again, Roy, if he actually believes that, he should just stop it. It's his privilege to be. I don't mean to be a jerk against Trump here at all, right? People got mad when Trump was like, we're going to put in a new Supreme Court justice. I wasn't mad at him. This is right. He can do it if he wants to. He can do it, and he did it. Okay, if I like it or not, it's irrelevant. He can do it. Biden's president now. He can do this if he wants to. And my point is, just do it or say nothing. My problem isn't with him actually removing the briefings from Trump. He can do it if he wants to. My problem is talking like Trump is evil and bad and not doing it. That's just signaling. Just take it, man. If you think he's that bad, and if you agree with Roy, if he agrees with you, take it. It's your privilege. Do it. I don't have a problem with that at all. Is Liz Cheney's dad an old school Republican? Kinda. So Republicans have become a personality cult based around Trump. It's that simple. There's nothing to say for that, Brennan. Yeah, I think a lot of that's true. Not 100%, but it's a lot of that's true. I mean, what does it say about these people that's the person they decided to hitch their horse to? Or Brennan, I'll go back both sides in this one. Or what does it say about Democrats who couldn't pull people to their side? Right? So you could go either way on this one. You could say, what does it say that this mean, brash guy, they jumped on this mean, brash guy? That's true. Absolutely brash. 100%. The amount of Republicans who told me, I wish they'd take away his phone and stop him twitting. Heard it all the time. It's a valid point. But then at the same time, how come the Democrats couldn't produce anything that would move people towards them? Or were the Democrats so toxic to so many people And Bill Maher speaks about this often. He literally says, why the hell have Democrats become so toxic, as he spends his time attacking Republicans all day? So, yeah. I mean, Brennan, look at what you wrote. You alluded to these people. You dehumanize them. Why would they come to you? Right? And I'm talking to somebody who's desperately trying to recruit people to my party. So you don't hear me go, these people are Democrats or Republicans. I try to be honest with both. Clearly, I can't be 100% because I'm biased in my own views also, right? But you don't hear me go, these people about lefts, all right, because I want them both to come to me. So at the same time, I get your point. He is a brash, total outsider, 100%. Yep. And how come the Democrats couldn't produce anything that would keep people there? Or why did Democrats push people over to that? I could see both sides of that. I think both are fair. So, all right. So hold on here. Party politics, all about money and power over American people. Yes, absolutely. If the Republicans don't stand behind President Trump, they are done. All the rhinos will be out. See, you're assuming, Coco Girl 12, you're assuming that Trump wants to do this again. I don't know if he does. I have no insight, but that's a lot to go through an election and to lose a big one. I lost a small election and it was, hurtful for me. I couldn't imagine losing that election. And you already had it and you lost it. You're assuming he wants to do it again. He may be like, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna, as I said, I'm gonna go to Malaysia and build hotels. He might do that. And then what happens, right? You really don't want a party or any organization that's all reliant upon one person. There needs to be an heir apparent. And that's the one thing Trump did very poorly. He did not create an obvious heir apparent. Like, who's the next guy? People might have thought it was Pence, but then he turned on Pence in the end. And so now Pence isn't even an heir apparent. It's an unhealthy place to be. That's what I'm saying. So as much as I admire Kinsler and Cheney speaking up, it's apparent that Trump's party, it's inspired by the blowback they're getting. Yes, absolutely. Yes, 100%. Go with populists and hope they burn themselves out rather than supporting establishment and all the issues we know they bring. Maybe. I see where you're going with that. I see. So, all right. Let me grab a couple of these if I could. Let me go one more place. This is Michael Smerconish's show. He's on Saturday mornings. And he brings up an interesting point about people not wanting to let go, period, of what they're trying or what they believe. So let me grab a little bit of this here. And not wanting to, not because their beliefs change, but because they get crushed culturally if their beliefs change, even if they've learned new information, which is a huge problem.
Joining me now is Adam Grant. He's an organizational psychologist at the Wharton School, where for 7 straight years, he's been rated the most popular professor.
He's popular.
His TED Talks have been viewed over 25 million times.
Look at that.
He's the author of the just-released Think Again.
He's pumping a book. Good for him.
The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. Professor, thanks so much for being here. I find that so much of what you write about in this book applies to our political climate. For example, you argue in favor of embracing the joy of being wrong.
Yes. Haven't you guys heard me say this? How many times? I could be wrong. Talk to me. Show me. Am I wrong with this? It's possible that I'm wrong. It'd be nice if I was perfect and always right. That would be amazing. It just isn't true. And guess what? It's true for no one. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. We all screw up. We all change our minds. We all get new information. Things change, but there's a problem.
But that seems the antithesis of the way our politicians act, like I was just describing. Explain.
Yeah, it does. I think too many politicians are afraid of being accused of flip-flopping or hypocrisy. You know who was a great flip-flopper? Abraham Lincoln. He came into office convinced that if he abolished slavery, it would tear the Union apart. And I think we're all lucky that he was willing to change his mind on that. But we need our politicians who stick to their principles, but are flexible on their policies.
See, this is the point that I love. This is what we need more of. He's right. I would rather have a politician who sticks with his principles or her principles, but can be flexible in policy as long as it's still within principle. And that's hard. It's hard when you say anything wrong, that someone will go back from what you wrote, cancel culture, we'll go back 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you said that green was your favorite color. Well, it was. Now it's blue. Oh, so now it's blue, flip-flopper. And now all of a sudden, everything you say is now horrible because things have changed. But not just that. Every 10 years at least, we're different people. Things happen in our life, good and bad, that change how we feel about things. We have tragedy and or joy that make us think differently. We're human. I'd like some more humanity. I'm trying to model the behavior that I want. So I'm trying to be more open about this. Why I do all these shows live? And you see, I am myself. You will see me make mistakes and screw things up and I hope you get that I'm trying to go in the right place with the right principles.
I can't think of a politician who upon reflection, and says so, faces the public and says, geez, I've thought about this more, or there's new data on this issue, and I have changed my mind. Instead, you get derided, such as Secretary Kerry. Well, he was against the war before he was for it.
I'm going to go to one step closer here in my own state. My governor, and many wherever you may live, you don't live in New York, your governors, who said lockdowns are the right answer. Masks are the right answer. Now they can't go back. Now they have to double man. Now it needs 3 masks. You got to double down, triple down. We need more lockdowns. My governor recently said lockdowns might last another year or two. Another year or two because of the new strains of the virus. So he has to double and triple down. This is a serious cultural issue. We have to break this. Cancel culture, zero tolerance. That I've been talking and preaching against zero tolerance in businesses for a decade. I've been talking about how zero tolerance policies are terrible. I talk about they're bad in government. Zero tolerance policies are terrible, and that's where this comes from.
Yeah, I think this is a cultural problem. I think there's too much stigma attached with admitting that you're wrong. It's seen as a sign of weakness. When in fact, last time I checked, it could be a mark that you've learned something. I think if you're committed to being a lifelong learner, you better be evolving your beliefs. Otherwise, you're not really making any progress.
But I'll go one step further. How do people actually gain loyalty to you and believe in you? It's when they fail and you still hold their hand and say, I'm still with you. It's when you fail and you go, I failed. I need your help. Can you help me up? And they go, yeah, you know what, Larry, I'll help you up. And Larry, thanks, by the way, for helping me up. I appreciate that. Now people become loyal to you because you've shown them that when you're down, I'll put my hand out. And you know what? I'm human. I'll fall down too. And when I fall down, I'll ask you for your hand to pull me back up. We can't do that if we're all trying to be perfect. It doesn't work.
There's a discussion in the book about Red Sox and Yankee fans.
By the way, I'm a Yankee fan and Red Sox are terrible by default. Just making that clear. And that's totally not emotional at all that Yankees are the greatest team ever. That's completely only factual. There's no emotion involved in that whatsoever.
And all the while I was reading your analysis and your research, I kept thinking about Republicans and Democrats. What can Republicans and Democrats learn from that analysis that I'm referring to?
Yes, indeed.
So Tim Kundro and I ran these experiments where we got Red Sox and Yankees fans to abandon some of their animosity toward each other.
That's a hard thing to do, by the way. That is a hard thing to do.
Just by imagining, would you root for a different team if you'd been raised in a different city? And we recently extended this to people on opposite sides of the gun debate and found out that if you're somebody who's passionate about gun rights, and you think about growing up in Columbine, you actually become a little bit more open to hearing the other side. And I think that this is different from perspective taking, right? People are constantly encouraging us to imagine yourself in the other person's shoes, and that's just too far of a bridge for most people. What works better is to rewind the events of your own life and say, you know what, if I'm on the other side of this, what would I believe if I had grown up in a hunting family?
If you've ever heard me do this, I do this constantly with millennials. And I talk about what millennials have gone through. And I say, imagine if it was you. Wouldn't you think that? And I say, I think the same way, right? If I was a millennial and I got out of college in, say, 2012, as an example, I got out of college in 2012. And what's waiting for me? The crash. Not what I was told. College was horrible for me. It took me 6 years to graduate. I'm heavily in debt. And now I just have to build myself out through gig economy and everything. And here comes 2020. Crash. Everything I've just built up is now gone. I don't own much. So I don't know what ownership is about. Everything I do is rental. I can't afford my own home. Probably can't afford a car. Capitalism doesn't look good to me at all. Doesn't look good at all. This dream you told me, where's that? You lied to me. I can see why a millennial would go that route. If that was me, I probably might think that way. I've told some people also who were talking about, dealing with the ideas of poverty. And I said, imagine, whoever you are, right now, if you can imagine, never in your life ever seeing your parents go to work. Never seeing your mother or your father ever get up in the morning and go to work. That wasn't part of your life. You never saw that. Never seeing your grandparents getting up and going to work. Like that wasn't part of your life. Getting up in the morning, having breakfast, seeing your mom or dad or both goes off to work. Never seeing that. Here's what I know. Whoever you are now, you'd be a different person. You wouldn't be the same person if you had never seen that and had that in your household that for 2 generations never went to work. You might go, people are bad. How would you feel? What would you be if you were that person? You see me crossing New York State, what I always say, look, the people in Brooklyn, they love Brooklyn. The people in Wyoming County, they love Wyoming County. Leave them alone. What do you care? It's where they grew up. They like it. That's why they live there. Why are you trying to push your views on them? Leave them alone. Leave Brooklyn alone. Let Brooklyn be Brooklyn. What's your problem? And people start going, oh, yeah, they must like Brooklyn. That's why they live there. Yes. So let them live there. And they'll let you live in Watertown. Life is good. So I do think that works, right? Getting people to think differently about each other. But at the same time, it's okay for anyone to say, I've changed. I used to think that, and now I don't. I used to believe that, and now I don't. We have to be better at that. I'm trying to be better like that. I hope we can all be better like that. In the long run, it is about respect. It is. Now, usually I would do a respect test commercial now because I brought respect, but I'm not. Instead, I'm going to push right now, quickly, the new advocates. Larry Sharpe here, host of the Sharpe Way show. With what's going on right now in D.C., man, everybody's talking about the election. Did you believe it? Not believe it? You scared? You're not scared? Well, how do you kind of figure out where you really stand and where others stand? Guess what? There's a survey. Yes, there is. Head on over to theadvocates.org election integrity survey. Yep, there's one for that too. Head over there, take that test, a couple of minutes, 2 minutes at max. Take it, share it with others. Let people see what you thought, what you did, and let them take it too. See where they stand with other people in this country taking this test. How else are we going to have that conversation we need to have to discuss what's going on in our country and how can we trust and feel confident in what's going to happen in the future? Well, one way, the election integrity survey, theadvocates.org. That guy's right. And by the way, the link is in the show notes. So please take that survey if you don't mind. I appreciate it. Share it out there. Let people know. Do that so that we can keep my sponsors happy. And it's free. So please go ahead and do that. Yes. All right. Let me keep going if I can. Why do people think Trump created the followers? The people were already there. The ideas were there. The feelings were there. Trump stepped into a movement looking for leadership. This is what I was talking about with Brennan, David. I mean, I think that's right. As much as Brennan can be mad and upset or confused, and I get people, on either side are, right? How people who love Trump always think, how can you not love Trump? People who hate Trump always go, how can you not hate Trump? So I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, why weren't these people running to Democrats, right? If Trump was so bad, why weren't these people finding different Democrats? There were literally, 16, 17 Democrats to grab, right? I mean, there were Democrats to grab. Why didn't they go there? They didn't. They went to Trump. It's a valid point. People were waiting for someone. Trump was that leader. But the same issue is there an heir apparent to pick up that mantle if either Trump doesn't want to do it again or in the crazy case that Trump actually gets removed? I'm not sure there is somebody right now. I feel like there's no one right now. All right. So tired of watching Republicans and Democrats take the country down. At least doing it pretty quickly right now. You are becoming, Steve, what they call a collapsitarian. The collapsitarian is someone who just wants it all to collapse fast so we can rebuild it. Can we just blow it up now so we can just go ahead and move on? Can we just do that? You're becoming a collapsitarian. Yes, absolutely. 100%. All right. He might consider starting a new party until he finds how difficult it is. Yeah, we know, libertarians. We get that completely. 100%. Damn, there's a lot of Democratic wins. Shudders. The worst part about this is one-party rule is terrible. Even if you're a Democrat, and I know Democrats watch this show too, even if you're a Democrat, imagine one-party rule. Only Democrats, there's no opposition. You wind up getting New York State. That's what it is right now. It becomes a dictatorship by default. And that's where we are right now. It is not a good idea. I just can't. I can understand why someone's a conservative. I can't understand being a Trump cultist. Well, I think if you could look the opposite way, again, I'll try to throw the opposite at you if I can, Brennan. Can you see someone who it's in their best interest it's in their best economic interest to do something that is against that because it's in their emotional best interest? That's what I would ask you to consider, right? And the example might be, someone who knows they shouldn't eat this bad food, but man, they just feel terrible right now, and eating that bad food is going to make them feel good. So they do something that's in their emotional best interest, where it may not be in their physical best interest, whatever this bad food is. I think that's a common problem. I think a lot of people, stay with the Democratic Party. I'll give it another good example. Look at how many people of color, black people particularly, have been voting for Democrats for decades. And Democrats have done virtually nothing to protect the black family. Virtually nothing. Not the Republicans have either. I'm not saying Republicans were so good. I'm not saying that. But consistently, 90% or more, consistently over decades. Why? Because it feels good. I know, and if you know, I don't know how many people you're close to who are black, Brennan, but if you know some people who are, please do me a serious favor. Ask one of them. Say, hey, I'm just curious. I was watching Sharpe Way, and Larry Sharpe told me this. I'm curious if it's true. Do you have relatives who are black and are conservative in the way they think about things, but vote Democrat? The odds are very high they're going to say yes. Very high they're going to say yes. You would think that would make sense. Why would you be a conservative and vote Democrats? Because it seems to make emotional sense. And so I think a lot of people, particularly those who were in rural areas and suburban areas, who have been ignored by Democrats for at least 20 years, probably, maybe even longer, at least 20 years, for sure 10, but at least 20 years, to feel completely ignored by Democrats, just completely and utterly ignored. And I look at my own state, Andrew Cuomo, His Majesty King Andrew II, oh, hail the king. He literally said, if you're conservative, there's no room in my state for you. When you feel that ignored, when you feel that alienated, why wouldn't you want the knight who was going to fight for you and make you feel better? Why wouldn't you? And it's a serious question. If you think I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong here, as I just went down that road and said that. But that's how I see it. And that's how people who I hear. What I hear constantly from Republicans in New York is something like that, or even just, I hear all the time, the guy actually says what he feels. I hear that. Because they believe so much that every candidate is such a liar that the fact that he would say what he actually feels out loud, as vulgar as it has been, they're like, fine, it's real. I'll take it. It's real. I don't care what he thinks, but he's saying what he feels. He's honest. I'll take it. There's a lot more to Trump. And this is kind of what David was saying. There's a lot more to Trump than just Trump. There also was an environment and people there waiting too, right? This was a perfect storm. It wasn't just Trump was super cool. It was things were ready for him and it all hit together. So many things. So, as a salesperson, when people don't buy my stuff, I don't go, you didn't buy my stuff? Clearly you're all stupid. I don't do that. I feel that way sometimes, but I don't say that because it's not helpful. What I should say is, what I do wrong? What did I not have the right message? Did I not have the right product? Did I not have the right service? Did I have the right medium? what was wrong? Is my product bad, right? What's wrong? Why aren't people buying this damn thing? Did I not have enough money? I start looking at all those things. And I lost my election. I didn't go, New Yorkers are all stupid. I mean, I felt that way sometimes because I was mad, but it wasn't real. The fact is, I need to do a better job in getting out there and getting more people to know who I am, raising more money and do that. Partly what I'm doing now. So that's why. I hope that was clearer, at least, maybe. So, all right. Let's see here. Romney has long opposed the radicalization of the Republican Party that we are seeing today. I think you're right. Romney is a much more conservative person in general. So is Pence, by the way. But Pence was prepared to get whatever he could get, and he knew Trump was a good vehicle for him. Romney wasn't prepared for that. Initially, Romney was. Remember, Romney was very happy to get Trump's initial endorsement because he was hoping that, Trump would give him the things that he wanted. And then Romney backed off. Romney, I think, was too much opposed. That he wants old school Republican Party. That's what Romney wants to be. I think you're totally right. He does. So, all right. All right, where am I here? Let's see here. I do not believe President Trump created. I believe he organized these people. Same point we're talking about, Jan. I'm with you. I think there is a lot of that. Absolutely. The big issue in the Republican Party is there are too many rhinos in the party, so most base reps want nothing to do with them. Robert, I'm going to go one step further on this, and this is the point I meant, and I brought up about the idea of principles. If you would go back, there's a lot of core principles that a lot of the both parties have kind of forgotten. If you have a core, principles, if you have core principles and people are falling back to those principles and the base believes in those principles, there's the next piece. Does the base believe in the principles? And I'm going back to David. I mean, David was on the money here, right? When I go back to what David was talking about, it was already set up to where people weren't believing the system. They thought it was a swamp. They didn't believe that the Republican establishment was even thinking about them. It wasn't. They didn't believe it. So everyone who joins the party, even those who thought, I'm going to do great because I'm not a rhino, then they get into the swamp and realize, if I'm going to survive here, I got to become at least part rhino. And then they want to become either partial or totally rhino. And what did Trump give them? Trump gave them the opportunity to not be rhino. And that's what, Green is doing. Representative Green right now is like, oh, I don't got to be rhino. I can be whoever I want. All right, I'll do that. And she's actually enjoying it. So I think the point is both parties in the establishment have basically abandoned whatever principles they were supposed to stand for, right? I mean, Democrats are supposed to be about individual rights, aren't they? Supposed to be. Like the ACLU. They're supposed to be about that. Civil liberties. They're supposed to be about that. They're not, but they're supposed to be. Republicans are supposed to be about small government, right? Small business, open trade. Supposed to be. They're not, but they're supposed to be. I think if we were more like that, then more people would be following it. Yeah, and there'll be less rhinos. Unless, I guess, dinos, is that a thing? But I think there'd be less. There'd be less of each. Yes, less of each. So, all right, let's see if I can keep grabbing these if I can. Culture war that is killing the country. I agree. What we should be doing is allow people to have their own cultures. America is not a melting pot. We don't meld into one culture. We are a beautiful quilt. That is what America is, a beautiful quilt. All of us with our own pieces that are sewn together to make a beautiful quilt, and one that can keep growing and getting bigger and bigger and adding more people, each having their own way, their own view, their own gloriness to happiness. That's what America is, a quilt, a wonderful quilt. It's not a melting pot. We're all not becoming one. It's not who we are, and it's not who we want to be. I like the fact that we're a quilt. We should stay a quilt. Let's not have a culture war. Let's instead embrace it. We talk about diversity all the time. I'm in. I love diversity. Let's do that. Then if we're going to have diversity, let's respect diversity and let everybody have their own way of doing things and let people live the way they want to live. We're simply not doing that well at all. We're actually failing miserably. We should be much better, right? Much better. So, all right. So if I can do this here. Watching MSNBC is watching the establishment talking down to us lowly peasants, British accents and all. Nicely done, Steve. That's a good catch. Yes, that literally was that. It was, you peasants, You colonists will tell you what's going on. Absolutely. Yeah. That's true. I like that. Very good. That's very good. All right, let me grab a couple of these now if I could here. A couple last ones. Let's see. Trump is the rhino in the Republican China shop. It depends on how you describe Republican. There's an argument for that. Yes. Right. If you look at Republican being establishment Republican, yeah, that's right. He's definitely not. Establishment never liked him. That was clear. The establishment Republicans never liked him. If you were to define Republican as more establishment, I think that's an accurate analogy. I think it works. Absolutely. So how can we help Libertarian Party grow? By commenting, and sharing this right now. The more we can, the better. The more we can share, the more people know what's going on, the better. That's what I want to do. Absolutely, yes. So a lot of black Democrats voted for Trump in 2020. Also true, yes. And that was my point before, right? That the alienation that is being felt by many white males in America is actually bleeding over. It's bleeding over to non-white males and to white women. It's bleeding over. You can see it begin to bleed over. It's very strong. If the Democrats pull back a little bit and stop being so aggressive in that regard, I think you'll find a lot of people stay with Democrats and even go back, because the Republicans are going to not know what they're doing in these next couple of months until they figure themselves out. If the Democrats keep that pressure and keep that push, if they keep doing it, I think a lot of people are going to walk over to Democrats and just hang out and wait for the Republicans to find their bearing wherever they are. I think that's going to happen. It's a valid point. Yes. So some people just want to sit back and watch the world burn, I guess. I guess part of that's true. Yes, absolutely. So, all right. If I can grab a couple more just before. All right. When the Homeland says you need a PCR test, is no longer your home. Ooh, interesting. Yeah. Capitalism doesn't look good until you read Marxism. Boy, howdy, was that guy a moron. Well, again, and a point I bring up constantly is when something is not working for you, hope of anything else looks good. The example you hear me bring all the time is 1917 Russia, when you got 300 years under the Tsars, 300 years under them. You're basically a slave, not 100% slave, but like 98% slave for hundreds of years. And then some guy says, look, communism, we all get bread. Isn't that great? You go, we all get bread? Yeah, I like this communism thing. Boom, they took a chance. There was hope. So if you're a millennial and capitalism is failing for you, and here comes cool Uncle Bernie and hot AOC, it starts looking good. That's all I'm saying. They're just humans. So I would look at us and say, how did we make capitalism fail so badly for them? Right? What did we do to create these last crashes, the COVID lockdowns, the real estate bubble? What did we do to make things so bad? So that these kids are like, you know what? Socialism is better than what I got now. Yeah, that's a problem. Absolutely. So, all right. Let's see here. We only watched the Yankees versus Red Sox because Dad from Queens, Mom from Boston. There we go. Absolutely. I do love that. All right. Well, guys, I would say thank you so much for today. I appreciate all the time you gave me. I know I was on like 3 times today. Some of you watched all 3. I appreciate it. Some of you watched only 1 or 2. I appreciate whatever you can give me. Please, thank you so much. Please like, comment, and share. Let people know this is going on. I will see you all